Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Will, please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons,
Very, very curious.
we bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect, and then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, coming up on the Saturday Night Showdown. Is this the week that woke broke? After years of having diversity shoved down our throats like a French farmer force-feeding a foie gras goose, the new Miss Universe is a woman, an actual woman, who doesn't have a penis, and she's white, isn't obese, and is conventionally attractive. And there are more signs of wokeism dying. The new advert for Jaguar, or should I say Draguar, was an absolute car crash. It looked like an advert for RuPaul's drag race car. And the Jaguar boss's bad-tempered response to critics just made it worse. And the wheels are coming off the climate bandwagon as delegates stormed out of COP29, but not before they urged governments to ban meat. Delicious. And Putin is warning that he could nuke London. Don't threaten me with a good time, Vladimir. Finally, a man with a plan to stop the boats, because nobody wants to come to a nuclear wasteland, and reduce house prices in the capital. Amazing, although I'm sure Foxtons will still find a way to make irradiated rubble sound desirable. This is your Saturday Night Showdown. Discussing all tonight's topics with me tonight are my brilliant panel. Joining me are broadcaster, lawyer, futurist and fantastic magician. Look at him go there. He's brought a magic trick already. Andrew Eborn and the comedian Nicholas De Santo. But first, let's get your latest news headlines from Joe Casper.
Good evening, it's a minute past 8 o'clock. I'm Joe Casper in the GB newsroom. Storm Bert has claimed a third life after Northamptonshire police confirmed a man died in a two-car collision this morning. Elsewhere, Hampshire police said a man in his 60s died after a tree fell on his car on the A34 near Winchester. The force were called earlier this morning, where they found the driver of a black Mercedes dead at the scene. They added that it's so far unclear if the incident is related to Storm Bert, but that the cause is under investigation. We've also been told that a 34-year-old man died in a single-vehicle collision in Shipley, West Yorkshire this morning. The driver, a 34-year-old man from Bradford, was treated at the scene but pronounced dead a short time later. West Yorkshire Police has also confirmed that it's currently unclear if this is related to the current weather conditions. The Met Office has issued amber and yellow weather warnings as well as 16 flood alerts. This morning, winds of up to 105 miles per hour have been recorded and 13 centimetres of snow has fallen in some parts of the country. In Wales, 10 people, 5 adults and 5 children, have been rescued from a house after a landslide near Llangollen. A North Wales Fire and Rescue Services spokesman said they were all being assessed by ambulance services away from the scene, somewhere warm. Our Northern Ireland reporter, Dougie Beattie, was in County Down for us today and has been urging people to take care.
Late last night, about 3 o'clock in the morning, we had snow. Now we've been battered by winds and really, really ice-cold rain. It's not sleet. The rain is just so freezing cold. And what's happened is the roads are now flooded, trees are down, and underneath that line water is ice. So anybody that is out and about this morning, please, please be very, very careful.
Football now, and there was a shock win for Tottenham Hotspur in the evening kick-off as they smashed 4 goals plus Man City at the Etihad. In the early game, Chelsea beat Leicester City 2-1, and in the 3 o'clock matches, there were wins for Arsenal, Brighton and Wolves. Aston Villa and Crystal Palace and Everton and Brentford all drew. Keeping with sport, and 2 tennis rivals have come together. Novak Djokovic has appointed his rival Andy Murray as his coach. The Brit said, "I'm going to be joining Novak's team in the off-season, helping him to prepare for the Australian Open. I'm really excited for it and looking forward to spending time on the same side of the net as Novak for a change, helping to achieve his goals." The Serb added, "I'm excited to have one of my greatest rivals on the same side of the net as my coach." Those are your latest GB News headlines. For now, I'm Joe Casper. See you in an hour. Now it's back to Leo.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you, Joe, and welcome to the Saturday Night Showdown. There's some concern at the moment that we're heading into World War III as Ukraine got the go-ahead this week to use Western weapons on military targets inside Russia. And in retaliation, Russia fired a massive missile into Ukraine. It's capable of carrying a nuclear warhead all the way to Westminster. Here it is flying over Kazakhstan on the way to Ukraine. But relax. Russia isn't going to bomb London, even though it's actually quite a good idea. Russians own half of London. They're not going to bomb their own property portfolios. If Britain is irradiated, where will Russian oligarchs send their spoilt kids to private school? Anyway, if Russia does want to invade Britain, it doesn't need to drop a single bomb. I don't know if you've noticed, but Britain does not have any border control anymore. Borders are racist, apparently. Anyone who arrives on our shores instantly is allowed to become British. 1 million Russian men can just get on small boats and walk in, and a judge will decide that returning them to Russia would infringe their human rights. We'll even pay for their accommodation in hotels. An economist will tell us that we need the Russian troops here to sustain our economy. The BBC will tell us that Britain has always been Russian. The only difference we'll notice under the new regime is fewer people will be jailed for social media posts. If Russia does nuke London, Indians would take the biggest hit anyway, as Indians now own more property in London than native Brits. One cheeky woman on Twitter, or X, even bragged about India colonising London. Well, if we're being colonised by India, like we did to them, I hope they vastly improve the rail network and system of government like we did in India. We really need both those things right now. Anyway, I'm joined tonight by the broadcaster, lawyer, futurist, magician and polymath Andrew Eborn.
Hey, it's good to see you.
You too. And the comedian, the controversial comedian I should say, Nicholas DeSanto. How are you both doing?
Very well. Thanks for having us on what might be very well the very last episode of the show, if a nuclear Armageddon kicks off.
There's equal chances of me getting fired or nuclear Armageddon. So yeah, let's see which one. I mean, what do you make of this sort of saber rattling by Putin? You know, suggesting he's going to launch nukes at England.
Well, first of all, had Putin seen your introduction in time, he would have sent his troops on rickety dinghies into Ukraine, and the whole Western left would have been fine with that, right?
Yeah.
But I think our leaders have been justifying and selling our support for Ukraine on the basis of a big fat lie. They said if we don't support Ukraine, after Ukraine, we might be the target.
Yeah.
But looks like we might as well be the target even before Putin is finished with Ukraine.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's a
The reality is this, is they're all worried. As soon as Donald Trump comes in, he's threatened to finish it all in 24 hours.
Yeah.
So what Biden's suddenly woken up and said, well, I better allow people to fire missiles much further into Russia, just to make a sort of point on that sort of principle. That's what's going to happen. It's saber-rattling. You're quite right. There's far too many Russian properties over here. I think that's a great point on that sort of principle. But they're worried as soon as Trump comes in, they're going to finish the war. So it's a negotiating tactic.
Yeah.
So that's what they're doing on that basis.
I don't see. I mean, if Russia did want to invade Western Europe, if it wanted to invade Britain, I don't see. You know, how are we going to rally people and get people to be patriotic when we've spent a decade, 2 decades, telling people any patriotism is evil and racist and extreme far right and all the rest of it. And, you know, now you're going to tell people to go and die for their country. When a moment ago you were telling them they didn't even have a country and it should just be a borderless economic zone.
I think we should inherit some of that wonderful Trump thing about making America great again. We can make Britain great again. You work on that sort of principle. And that's the difficulty, because you're right. Everybody's had their wings clipped as a result of it. And it's tricky, isn't it, on that basis?
Yeah, and we're seeing Europe getting very tough on immigration. This week we saw, so Sweden has actually got net emigration. More people are leaving Sweden than are coming into it. And that's despite Sweden being a nice place. You know, you'd think it'd be easier to do that in Britain with it not being as pleasant. And also France has criticised the UK for not doing its bit. You know, the UK gives France, I think it's about £500 million a year to help stop cross-channel migrants. But France have turned around to the UK and said, well, it's not helping us, the fact that you're just making it a really attractive proposition. If you get into the UK, you can work and illegally, and there's very little chance you get sent back. You get a hotel.
Stay in these glorious hotels. We'll look after you. Get to the front of the benefits queue.
It's about. Sorry, go on.
Go for it.
It's about time we kind of highlight our negative features so that this Indian lady doesn't taunt us about colonizing. I mean, is it colonizing Britain or is it a love letter to Britain? Because they come here, buy property out of their own volition, live under our laws and our terrible government while calling themselves the biggest democracy of the world. and so why are they here after all?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's you know, it's nice that people see Britain as a place to come. And I think the great thing about India and Britain is we've got so many shared values that you know, that sort of immigration quite often works out. It's, you know, it's people coming from slightly different cultures.
Oh, no, I think that's right. We are a glorious melting pot. We are the best country in the world, and this is why people want to come here. And we do. We make it far.
But again, you are encouraging more immigrants to come over here.
But it is.
Yeah,
it's fantastic.
Nicholas's idea of, like, we need a social media campaign, just showing the negative side, just show parts of Dundee.
By invitation only.
Show some of the British dentistry. We'll put people off coming. Anyway, moving on. English car brand Jaguar is the latest brand to Bud Light itself on fire. Jaguar have always stood for a sort of James Bondy type of luxury and class. It's the sort of car that has a sexy stylishness to any midlife crisis. You're not allowed to slap your secretary on the bum anymore, but you can buy a red Jaguar and rev it near her bum. But all that is out the window. The latest advert puts the trans in transportation as part of a rebranding that sees the iconic car company forget about selling to boring, pale, stale males and instead focus on that lucrative, bald, transgender Somalian asylum seeker market. Take a look at this. They say copy nothing in this advert. Delete ordinary. I think it needs to delete his hard drive. They say copy nothing, but the ad then copies every single other cliched virtue signalling diversity ad from the last decade. It's so out of date, and it completely ignores Jaguar cars or the people who might buy them. The advert has absolutely tanked. It's like they said to Bud Light, hold my beer. But the Jaguar boss, who called for it, he's called Raw Dong Glover. If you put a different accent on that, if you say those words, those letters in a slightly different way, you get a slightly different Raw Dong Glover. He's accused the critics of the advert of vile hatred and intolerance. Well, yeah, you can report us to the police for hate crime, but we're still not going to buy a Jaguar. I mean, I just feel this advert, they're all like, oh, we're so new. It's like, man, it would have been new maybe 50 years ago.
I mean, Elon Musk, my best mate, because Errol, his father's on my show all the time, what he said is that, do you sell cars? Because not a single car is featured in this ad. And it's quite sad, because you remember John Prescott, the great John Prescott, died just a few days ago. And he was famously 2 Jags. You might remember, he got 2 Jags. And so he will be spinning now in his grave as a result of this advert.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, Jaguars, the E-Type Jaguar from the 60s, you know, they've always had this sort of classic, quintessentially English, you know, real stylishness and sexiness, and I feel like they've thrown all of that out the window. And also, get a load of this, Nicholas, they're going to double, they're relaunching with an all-electric lineup, and it's going to be twice the cost. Twice the cost.
This is the most...
I would buy it as half.
This is the most damaging thing done to a car since Thelma and Louise, you know. But, I mean, I mean, I don't want to be too negative, just to balance the conversation. If enough men who wear dresses buy the car, they might still pull this off. But speaking of doubling down, up until yesterday, we had the woke brigade telling us, date a lady with a penis, or you are intolerant. Now they're telling us, buy a Jaguar or you are intolerant. I don't think it's... And some people say, any publicity is good publicity, but this is not about engagement harvesting on Twitter or clickbait. Ultimately, you want to buy that car, and a car is something that you identify with. It has to say something about your status, your spirit, your personality. It's just like your watch.
Never mind, mine's just a car I can afford.
Same here. But you know, if you were to, I think they might have been, this ad agency might have been penetrated by Alfa Romeo, for example. If you look at their logo,
I think they're penetrated by some other stuff.
I was waiting for that line. It's like, burn and banning, eat your heart out. I love it. The reality is this: if you want to draw a crowd, start a fight, P.T. Barnum, the best showman of all. So many people are talking about this ad. It's actually owned by Tata, a huge company.
And I think people will be saying Tata to Jaguar. I mean, this is like, say there's no such thing as bad publicity. I mean, I think Gary Glitter would disagree. Also, it's interesting that Jaguar support transitioning at work, but I think that might be because it's easier to get male engineers to transition than it is to find female engineers. I'm not sure. It's just a theory I'm working on. Now, talking of diversity and inclusion, every organisation now has a diversity and inclusion department which makes sure every possible type of person is represented and everyone feels comfortable being their authentic selves at work. But do they really include everyone? The charity Change, Grow, Live, which sounds like a rubbishy slogan you'd see stencilled on the wall of a house, fired one of their workers, Colette Fairbanks, because she had some diverse opinions. Colette is a former UKIP councillor and shared some posts on social media reflecting her beliefs that Britain should be outside Europe and illegal immigration should be stopped. The charity found these views offensive and a tribunal upheld their decision. Now, I think this just shows that, you know, diversity and inclusion is a lie. They don't mean diversity at all. They mean homogeneity. Everybody's got to have the same opinion.
This is the problem. So it's so quick for people to take offence on these sort of things. And this is the problem at the moment. And we're having about sort of hate thoughts and non-hate crimes and all that sort of stuff. It's a horrible, horrible time we're living in, where people, and you talk about the thought police, they had Rodin's The Thinker, and next to them there's a new statue of the thought police on that sort of basis. You work on that sort of principle. We must be able to offend people. And the comedy now has been castrated as a result of it. And we've got to call it out. Enough is enough.
Yeah, I mean, Nicholas, what do you make of this? Because I know you've worked in some organisations that have had, you know, quite strict rules. I have as well, and you really do feel that you've got to, you know, for all that they say, oh, you can be your authentic self at work. It's like, no, I can't. I've got to pretend I'm a lefty to keep my job here.
Exactly. I worked for the BBC for 13 years, and any sort of diversity except diversity of thought. And ironically, this is the position, the majority position, because the majority voted for Brexit. The majority repeatedly, mandate after mandate, asked the Tory government to curb the immigration, and nothing happened. So it's not even fringe. By their standards, they should entertain even fringe. It's a majority opinion. It's a mainstream opinion.
And I have to say, I love working with him. It's great to be back with him. It's rather like if you ordered Rowan Atkinson and Will Ferrell from Temu, you get both of us, wouldn't you? And I brought little one along because I thought this is good. You know, this is the moment. It looks fantastic. Anyway, you're right. We've got to be able to offend people. people. If you can't offend people, there's going to be a real problem with humour in the future.
Yeah, I'm just wondering what else he's got.
Sorry, I haven't got any props. I wasn't told by the producers we need props.
That's quite all right. I've got to say, the funniest thing I ever got told was when I was banned from a comedy club in Australia, and they said, this is an inclusive space, you have to leave. That's not an inclusive space. Anyway, coming up, we will assess the week's winners and losers. This week, Keir Starmer has been hosting a meeting with investment bosses as the country deals with financial issues, and Denmark have been celebrating a big victory. I think you'll like it. See you in a moment.
Hurrah!
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
I'm joined now by an acknowledged authority on Ludwig van Beethoven. He's already written 7 books on the subject, and next week his 8th is released. It's called In Search of Beethoven, and it stands apart as a deeply personal account of John Souché's relationship with the great composer as he follows his footsteps from Bonn to Vienna. Yes, I introduce author, journalist and classic FM presenter John Souché.
Hello, Mike.
It's delightful to have you here, and you have, as I say, written now 8 books on Beethoven. So the question is, why Beethoven?
Well, the word that is often used that I don't like is obsession, obsessive, because somehow there's something not quite right about that. The word that I use is passion. I have a passion for this man's life and music that began, I suppose, around 50 years ago, sometime in my early 20s. I can't remember the exact moment. He kind of crept up on me, and suddenly, as I was a journalist, TV journalist all my life, but before that I was a failed musician. I wanted to be a professional musician, but fortunately for the world of music, I realised I didn't have the talent. But this man's music crept up on me, and I knew from then that it would not go away, it would only increase, and that is what's happened. There are other composers I will listen to, minor names like Mozart, Wagner, Haydn, but Beethoven just does it for me. I was highly educated musically at school because I loved it, to the extent that I wanted to turn professional, but as I say, I didn't have the talent, but that has stayed with me. I read music, I understand music, as you say, I play the trombone, in those days to quite a high level.
GB News, the People's Channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking, this is the nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them. Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back to the Saturday Night Showdown. It's now time to go through the winners and losers of the week. Keir Starmer, is he going to be a winner or a loser? No idea. Well, he's met with the bosses of investment giant BlackRock.
Good idea.
Here he is, cozying up to BlackRock's boss, Larry Fink. Now, in a week where Starmer's been slammed for destroying British farming, cutting off heating to the elderly and hammering small businesses with tax hikes, it's a strange time for him to be cozying up to global financial companies who are presumably looking to buy up some farmland on the cheap. Now, what happened to the left? When I was young, dumb and full of leftism, we were suspicious of banks, politicians and big business. We sided with small businesses, working people and communities like farmers. Now left-wingers like Terry Christian and, to be frank, most of them, James O'Brien, all of them, they cheer on Starmer selling off family farms to global corporations. Honestly, I think corporations worked out how to hack the left. If you stick a pride flag on a soulless conglomerate, leftists will fight to the death to defend it. Now, I was really shocked to see it was so blatant. You know, Starmer met with Bill Gates, and now he's meeting with Larry Fink from BlackRock.
What was he thinking? Thank you. But BlackRock has got a controversy about they invest in fossil fuels, and there's a whole thing about China and human rights and so on.
And they're behind the push for DEI with their ESG investment.
Yeah, absolutely. IHA. I hate acronyms, but you're absolutely right. You work on that sort of basis. The optics on this are completely wrong. Starmer is getting it so wrong. The drama of Starmer, the farmer harmer. You work on all of that sort of stuff. It's wrong again, and I think the media is just going to have a field day with him.
Yeah, I don't think Starmer's put a foot right since he was elected.
I mean, he hasn't got one thing right. And of course, the left is no longer for the poor. The left is no longer. Labour is no longer for the working class. And the only ones who haven't got the memo are the left-wing comics on the London circuit. But you can't make this stuff up. Politics UK is reporting that, you know, the inheritance tax on farmers because you inherit a gigantic farm, which is presumably only on paper. You know, it's not liquidity. There's a reason we call it liquidity.
It's an unrealized.
Exactly. So you're supposed to pay tax. I mean, inheritance tax is theft in the first place. Why should I, you know, be paying for something my father owned and paid for it while purchasing it at the moment of purchase and every month or year for having it? But that's another story. But then the tax is so hefty that they give you 10 years, which is already a giveaway, and then they say, if you can't pay it, well, why don't you sell it? Sell it to whom? To those who are going to tarmac over it and all that. And now, Politics UK is reporting, and I conclude, 516 million pounds British foreign aid to farmers overseas, while they are raising 520 million pounds from British tax farmers over inheritance tax.
We could leave the farmers alone.
So it's a perverse Robin Hood who is stealing from British farmers to give to foreign farmers.
That's insanity.
It's complete insanity.
Ed Miliband as well announced the 11.5 billion is going overseas.
It's absolute nonsense. And actually, I've been basically advocating we should abolish inheritance tax for the very reason you said. It only raises 7 billion in total for the economy. And actually, you work all your life, you pay taxes all your life, and all of a sudden, your family have to get rid of their house because they work on that sort of basis to pay it off. Farmers cannot afford. It's 20%. They're going to work on that sort of basis, over $1 million or whatever it is. Jeremy Clarkson was out saying about this sort of thing, the tractors are out in force. I don't think, as you say, Starmer has put a foot right since he's been in. If we had an election tomorrow, he's out.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think when we have an election in 5 years, he's going to be out then as well, if he makes it that far. Moving on, transgender police are going to be allowed to strip search women under controversial new guidance. This is no longer just my #1 Pornhub search. This is government policy. British transport police are going to let trans rummage around your port. Do you see what I did?
Look at you! You're on a roll up.
This is serious. Male staff who identify as women, like me, will be able to conduct intimate searches on women if they have a gender recognition certificate, which is a bit of paper that magically turns a man into a woman, like a wizard casting a spell. Not everyone is delighted about this. Maya Four-Starter, Twisted Four-Starter from the charity Sex Matters, said it's a shocking breach of human rights. I've got to be honest, I bet they're not going to be trying it with a woman in a burqa, Nicholas.
Definitely, because then cultural sensitivities of a certain group will come into question. But, you know, to be fair, after all the heat that Olympic boxing got because of, you know, biological men beating women on different levels, and now in the US Congress, we have a motion gaining momentum against a newly elected congressman or woman, depending on your, I think she or he calls herself or identifies as Sarah McBride. So if those toilets are out of question and boxing is out of question, the only way for some people to get their hands on women is frisking them as police officers.
I think there are. You could just be charming and, offer to buy them a drink.
It is scandalous, though, and I'll tell you why it's scandalous, is that they should be absolutely out of women's safe spaces, they should be absolutely out of women's sports, and for people to basically do these intimate searches as a result is completely wrong. I don't know anybody on either side of the discussion who would want that as a principle, because who's going to turn around and say this is going to be this is going to advance our cause as a result of it? There is absolutely no reason, and we should stop it.
And yeah, these are intimate searches, and other police forces have said they won't do this. And yeah, like you say, I don't think it does the cause of, you know, just regular transgender people who just want to, you know, get about their day without having lots of heat and attention drawn on them. You know, this is one of these things that's just going to, you know, create friction.
Of course, and I always say it's about respect for everybody in the conversation, and respect for those trans. People go through a lot of issues. A lot of people I know in our profession, they do that. They go through a lot of issues. It does. Yes, absolutely. Snip, snip, Bob's your auntie. You work on that sort of principle. But the reality is, there's got to be respect for everybody in the conversation. Women need safe spaces. They've got to have that. Women need sports they compete in because they biologically they're not the same as men. And there's a reason they've got the separation. We need to stop it. And this is a step too far.
Yeah, and this could be really traumatising for some women. So hopefully British Transport Police will roll that back. Moving on, better news. The winner of Miss Universe was crowned this week, and after years of beauty pageants only being won by obese, transgender, pansexual, Papua New Guinean Smurfs with one leg, it was won by a white woman, and she's conventionally attractive, and she doesn't even have testicles. Honestly, I thought this was a hate crime. Denmark's 21-year-old Victoria Kjær-Thielvig, I've probably messed up that pronunciation.
What was her name?
Kjær-Thielvig. Well, she's Miss Universe 2024. Here she is. Take a look. Now, I believe her interests include world peace and animals. And she's also a philosopher. When she was asked how she'd live differently if nobody would judge her, Victoria told the judges she wouldn't change anything, saying, "I live by each day." This is profound stuff.
It's very good, isn't it? She's just finished her first book, colouring it in. It's great. Give her another brain cell. It'd be lonely. The reality, she's wonderful. Everybody loves world peace.
She's probably a doctor.
She probably is a doctor, and it's very unfair that you would say bad things about her.
May I say,
she's probably incredibly intelligent, and we're looking at this. I think she's advanced. I think people love the idea of beauty pageants. And I think all the feminists are coming together and saying, let's support this.
Yeah, well, there was a Greek philosopher who said ethics and aesthetics are the same thing.
Well, in Italian we say even the eyes want their share. You know, anche l'occhio vuole la sua parte. But having
sounds great in Italian.
Of course, everything does.
What is the Italian for that?
Anche l'occhio vuole la sua parte.
Anche what?
Anche l'occhio, even the eye, vuole, wants, la sua parte, its share or its part.
Okay.
But I hope this doesn't eat into my time because I have something prepared. Yeah, having said that, I find it a bit underwhelming or cliche because we need... No, absolutely. But I think in this day and age, Miss Universe can be a driver for change. We need something like the transgender Miss Netherlands. When Dutchmen come out and say, I'd rather have sex with my own wife than with Miss Netherlands. Or like the 39-year-old Iranian-born Miss Germany, when German men came out and said, I'd rather go die for Ukraine on the battlefield than have sex with Miss Germany. Right? So that be the impact, be the change that you want to be.
But, I mean, luckily, there is still some transgender representation at Miss Universe. So the Miss Universe pageant is actually owned by a Thai transgender woman.
Well, I'm quite right too.
Well, she's doing a great job.
The change will do them good. I think the reality is exactly that. And Trump used to be involved with these sort of pageants and things as well. He did. He did. He used to own certain pageants and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's an interesting time now. But the answers to those questions about what do you want is always about world peace and stopping hunger and that sort of stuff. Yeah. You want people to be gloriously creative on that sort of thing.
Well, and you won't want them to go out and be like, I want more hunger.
More.
Absolutely. I want more war.
But this is the thing. They've got to be better questions. I think they now need to turn around. Maybe there could be a physical thing as well as a sort of an intellectual thing. And look, just as we do mind games, you know, they play chess and so on and so forth. We should do that. You should have an all-round sports person. And the fact is, Miss Universe, Elon Musk wants to send people off to Mars. Yeah. So I think that's a great idea. When we go to Mars, there's bound to be life on other planets. So I want to find that green thing with funny little horns and make sure that thing wins the next time.
Yeah, you'll probably put it in your pocket. But yeah,
it's out of my pocket. Come on.
If we made them explain the dual slit experiment or something like that.
Yes, well, that's what you want.
Quantum physics.
A bit of intelligence.
Anyway, next on the Saturday Night Showdown, vegans have been issuing demands at COP29. Yeah. Plus, I'll show you what happened when the BBC thought they were interviewing Logan Paul. You won't want to miss that. See you in a moment.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. It stays unsettled through into Sunday. Storm Bert continuing to give outbreaks of heavy rain across the country, strong winds as well. And we can see that on the pressure pattern. Bert sat to the west of the UK, bringing in strong winds, outbreaks of heavy rain right through the rest of the weekend, and we can see the rain across much of the UK through this evening and into the early hours. The bright colours indicating some heavy bursts of rain in there, so there could be some local disruption combined with snow melt across northern England, parts of Scotland as well, as temperatures continue to rise. Double figures overnight across England and Wales, well above where they should be for the time of year, in a huge contrast to what we saw over recent days. Taking a look at Sunday morning, outbreaks of heavy rain across much of England to start the day. Some localised disruption possible is worth checking before travelling. Something a little brighter for Northern Ireland, parts of Scotland to start the day. Still breezy here, and particularly windy across parts of the Highlands and Islands, with showery outbreaks of rain here too. Snow continuing to melt where the sun shines as temperatures continue to rise through the morning. Through the day on Sunday, it generally stays cloudy across much of England and Wales. Outbreaks of heavy rain continue. Could be some further disruption. The Met Office warning continues, as well as some strong winds for many parts of the UK, particularly strong across northwest Scotland later on in the day. Temperatures here 9 to 11 Celsius, 15, 16 Celsius further south, so exceptionally mild for the time of year. Into Monday, weather systems start to clear away, but still remains blustery across the northern half of the UK in particular. Here, frequent showers through the day, turning increasingly colder as the day progresses. Some of these showers turning to snow later on, and temperatures starting to fall away, and generally staying unsettled as we go through the week. Temperatures nearer to average by Wednesday.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment. This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory. Don't miss my big opinion. Mark Meets and my take at 10. Democracy is a funny old thing. And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it. Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it. That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Will, please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons,
Very, very curious.
we bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Your thumb goes. Anyway, now, welcome back to the Saturday Night Showdown. Now, did you enjoy lockdown? Did you enjoy being forced to stay inside and being forced to take a vaccine? The next thing the government might force you to do, once we've got all the heat pumps and electric cars, looks like it's going to be enforced veganism. Hey! A delegate at climate conference COP29 issued demands for mandatory veganism. Take a look at this.
These are our demands. We believe that COP29 and UNFCCC conferences thereafter can only be successful if the closing statement includes transitioning away from animal protein overconsumption according to national or global dietary guidelines by implementing greenhouse gas emission pricing mechanisms in agri-food systems.
We love Johnny Depp.
This ties in nicely with Starmer replacing all of our farms with Chinese-owned solar plantations. Now, what I don't understand about this, I mean, all right, I get that, you know, meat releases fossil fuels, or whatever, the meat industry releases fossil fuels.
Meat releases fossil fuels?
Yeah, the meat farming releases.
You're thinking about methane. I was going to say, they're down to the coal mines.
They don't
You're
like.
just making it up as you go along, aren't you?
That's the thing that skinny guys like that don't like.
Carbon emissions.
Climate emissions.
Carbon
That's what they
emissions.
do.
Carbon emissions.
I have to say, I had the best mac and cheese I ever had was vegan, and you work on that basis. No,
it's mac and cheese. It's mac and it's not even a meat product. What about a steak?
Chili non-carne. They come up with they're brilliantly creative. What they call their dishes.
Chili non-carne. So they've made vegan food taste like meat.
And it looks like meat.
They've done that.
Yeah.
You know why they've done that? 'Cause meat's delicious.
It is.
You never get them taking meat and making it taste like broccoli.
And you can get a vegan burger that bleeds because it's got beetroot and that sort of stuff.
Getting vegan food and make it look like meat. They never get meat and make it look like
a vegetable. They do. What's his name? Blumenthal. But that's some sort of weird... he does like an orange, and it's like a meat orange.
That's some sort of weird circus trick. It's not a realistic thing that people.
It's a good circus trick.
What I don't understand about this, like I get some
Heston
meat farming releases climate emissions, whatever you want to call them, whatever makes these skinny guys cry, but. Upland farming, so sheep and stuff like that.
Yes.
That's actually the best use for the land. You can't grow rice there. It's just, this is where I grew up. There's sheep on the hills. We try not to bother them too much, and then we eat them.
Well, it's just almost as if it's all part of a big plan between World Economic Forum and United Nations, global governance.
Coming in with a conspiracy.
It's so obvious to deprive us from, again, callback, farming and farmers, and be dependent on these globalized multinationals who will feed us if we behave, by the way.
And you know what else? A low-protein diet. If you ever join a cult, I've never done it myself, but if you join a cult, they feed you a low-protein diet.
Is that right?
It keeps you timid and complacent.
Timid and obedient. Well, I'm on a low-protein diet. I'm timid and complacent. Look at me, absolutely.
This is a man who mainlines cans of tuna. Anyway, YouTube star Logan Paul
I love this.
pranked the BBC this week when he sent a lookalike along to be interviewed by the BBC's Matt Shea. Take a look at this.
Thanks, Matt. Sorry, I'm tired. No, last night was hard.
Hit me with the all right.
All right. How do you enjoy Puerto? Yeah, pretty good, huh?
He thinks it's me.
So, look, you're one of the most famous people by many metrics in the world.
Oh my God, he actually thinks it's me. What a dumbass.
Well, I mean, Matt, maybe you should have taken BBC Verify along with you to make sure it's Logan. But then Logan Paul, the real Logan Paul, interrupted the interview with the lookalike and sent in protesters to highlight the BBC's dubious history of employing sexual predators.
BBC is vile! BBC is vile! Higher than vile!
No way, bro.
Ask him about his personal account.
Matt Shea at gmail.com is website.
Tell him he unlocked 3 achievements. 3
amazing achievements. Come on.
Oh, he's leaving. That's what upset him the most.
So, hilariously they also exposed Matt's online pornography viewing habits, which were actually pretty tame for a BBC employee, or for this panel, to be honest. I've got to say, though, Logan Paul put up a better fight than his brother Jake.
Oh, I have to say that's true. I mean, it was an extraordinary fight with Tyson, wasn't it? Work on that sort of place. But you would think that all the stuff, you do all your research, work out all the questions you're going to do, the first thing you want to do is check that the actual person's there.
Yeah.
And you remember there's that great interview, this chap who turned up, who was shown to the studio very quickly, and he was completely blown away because he said, "You're the minister of what?" "Oh, no, I'm not," and he did that sort of stuff. It's one of those sort of moments, and it's a classic case, and it won't be the last.
No. Well, I mean, I think, the BBC, this sort of legacy media is dying out. Guys like Logan Paul get insane numbers of views. All the eyeballs, we saw this during the election in America as well. Like Kamala was doing CNN, MSNBC. Trump was doing Rogan. And Joe Rogan's podcast gets 30 times as many eyeballs on it as CNN.
There's an Italian phrase for the eyeball thing, isn't there?
Well, let's give it a break. But I worked for the BBC full-time for 13 years, so I'm going to go... Before they decided my comedy would jeopardize their otherwise impeccable reputation.
Yeah,
but
jeopardizing mine right now.
No, I'll behave. But the thing is, I have some sympathy for the guy, because anybody can have an off day. Maybe he was filling in for someone, maybe it was in his area, but granted, he didn't do his homework. But the problem here is the audacity and the arrogance of legacy media outlets to come up with BBC Verify and BBC fact-checking. It is still on their website. I'll give you just one example, which is staggering. Fact-checking Trump's last day as a president last time round. Trump famously claimed, and rightly so, that he was the first US president in decades not to start a war. And these BBC fact-checkers, it's still on the website, on their website. They say, well, depending depends how you define war. Because some scholars believe that unless you formally declare war, it's not a war. So nobody has done that in the US government since the Second World War. So these guys call Korea War, Korea War. They call Iraq War, Iraq. They call Vietnam War. But just to spite Trump and say he was not totally accurate, they say, well, but is this a war?
They're pretending it's not a war. It's ridiculous. Yeah, I think they made a mistake trying to make themselves the arbiter of truth. And Trump's victory in the election continues to ripple through the world with a UFC fighter celebrating with Donald's iconic dance. Take a look at this.
I also want to say a big, big thank you to President Donald Trump for being here tonight.
Funny, Andrew. As soon as I see somebody who's muscly, who's good at fighting, I know they're going to vote for Donald Trump. They're going to support Donald Trump. If I see somebody skinny, like that guy at COP29 and wants to be vegans, I know they don't support Donald Trump.
I think you're probably right on that. And what Trump should have done, in the same way as you had Mo Farah and various other people, you know, Usain Bolt doing their trademark signs, he should have trademarked that because he could have made a fortune. And Trump is brilliant. You remember when they did that mugshot when he was arrested?
Yeah.
He turned that into a multi-million-dollar business as a result of it. Oh, you got your mouse mat? Yeah, I love it.
Andrew and I should have done that dance at the top of the programme, at the video wall.
That would have been a great move. Anyway, next on the Saturday Night Showdown, we'll see how wicked stars reacted to some news regarding their new film. Plus, we'll show you what happened when a robot participated in a run. See you in a minute.
Headliners. Tomorrow's papers tonight, every night from 11 p.m.
Telegraph now with bra news. And Lewis, do you remember when you took your girlfriend for her first fitting?
This is M&S Transro. After I've got a youngish girlfriend. But
she was youngish when you first met her 20 years ago.
Yes, stay young. I don't like. I don't even want to read it. It's so pervy. It sounds pervy. If I think it's pervy, it's probably very pervy.
Okay.
It says it's first bras for young things. They can't even say young girls.
Well, let's have a look at it. It is it's upsetting. Strong, smart, strong, supported. First bras for fearless young things. So this has been picked up. Actually, Bev Turner from GBNews. Took a photo of it, put it online, it's created a bit of a furore.
First of all, those kind of bras are basically unnecessary. They were, when I was that age...
Wearing your bra?
Wear those bras. They used to call them training bras. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if they really were necessary at that time because they didn't have, like...
You've really got to the heart of this, haven't you?
This is the one time I'm not going to interrupt you.
Yeah, it's not... No, they're not really necessary. It's like, it's not... Because otherwise...
So really, this is a non-story.
Okay.
Well, I think it's... I don't know. I mean, there's a little bit of me that was kind of like, pick your battles. Is this the hill to die on? I don't know.
The young things, they're saying I would say it's a dodgy advert anyway, it feels like, because saying young things feels like it's as it says here, like objective. It's sort of saying that they're objects.
Yes, but this is my point about the West. Like, are you aware of a company called Pretty Little Thing? Do you know what I'm talking about? Like, one of the major brands for young women in this country is called Pretty Little Thing. I just think that's hilarious. Where were the feminists when they named that? So you go on the tube any day of the week and it says Pretty Little Thing and there's these women in tiny dresses and I don't know.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Nightmare commute? Kick it up a gear with GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+, and on the GB News app. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player apps. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with GB News Radio. We are the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the Saturday Night Showdown. The final section is here. Now, I saw the weirdest interview I've ever seen this week, and I've seen a lot of weird interviews. I've been in quite a lot of weird interviews, but check out this one with the stars of the musical film Wicked, Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo.
This week, people are taking the lyrics of Defying Gravity and really holding space with that and feeling power in that.
I didn't know that that was happening.
I've seen it, yeah.
That's really powerful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's what I wanted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I didn't know that was happening.
I've seen it on a couple posts. I don't know how widespread, but, you know, I am in queer media, so that's my,
That's
you
really
know.
cool.
Yeah.
Are they all on drugs?
Are you sure it's not another Jaguar ad? Had Jaguar vibes. Had Jaguar vibes.
Jaguar advert vibes. And the way she held on to the finger.
It was really weird. Well, we had Gregory Maguire, who was the original writer of it. He said it was basically supposed to be an adult movie.
Is this the song they're talking about?
Exactly. Right. So they're working on that sort of basis. So he was all over the press this sort of time. So it was quite dark, and there was all sorts of sex scenes at the beginning of the novel. And what happened? They sort of sugar-coated it. So he quite likes that and that sort of principle. But they obviously get sound bites given to them by the studios, which is why, and they get well rehearsed. So you have to work out the people behind the scenes. What are they actually telling them to say on that sort of basis?
Yeah, but I mean, this didn't seem like. I don't think they've been briefed to say all that stuff. Because
You don't think so?
None of it made any sense.
No, it doesn't need to make sense. This is we live in an era where you don't want things to make sense. It's the Jaguar advert, as you say. Nothing makes sense. You get people talking about it. So the publicity works on that basis.
But no, this isn't. I don't think this was planned. They were like, go out there and act as weird as possible, and then grab her finger like some weird talismanic.
They were copying nothing, including rules of semantics.
Yeah. But what I loved about it is how it's, you know, I've seen the cultural world erupt, in this, you know, in this outpouring of love, and it was like, actually, no, it's just a couple of posts. It was, you know, it was pretty much nothing. Anyway, if that didn't make you cringe enough, this person protesting against the government, capitalism, war in the Middle East, and their poor relationship with their father definitely will. Take a look at this.
There's people starving, children dying in this madness. And politicians funding wars with people's taxes. And they found oil, but they can't find a cure for cancer. There's profit in disaster.
Wow, I think they've probably ended war there.
I think you're probably right. And I was going to wear that outfit tonight, and I have to say, it would have clashed terribly.
But also, where would you put all your...
Where would I have my little props? Come on, I'm so proud of this one. This is so good, isn't it? You're working on that sort of basis. No, it is extraordinary that where they managed to find all these people is great, because it's perfect fodder. We would not be able to do the wonderful show on a Saturday without these people, so thank you. Keep coming.
Yeah, but I think, you know, when the government talks about non-crime hate incidents and all these, you know, things they have for regulating behaviour, I want to see these people getting non-crime hate incidents. That was, I mean, if anything made me more right-wing. It's not somebody sharing a meme or something like that. It was this person doing their dance.
Amazing the victimhood industry, how it can be monetized, and only certain causes make it to this massive level of attention. Because as we were speaking, yes, everybody's talking about Gaza, Ukraine, obviously, maybe Sudan a bit, but in Nigeria we have the massacre and the genocide, the real genocide of Christians, white people in South Africa, Zimbabwe, and they never get to the surface. But some other people manage to monetize and get attention and engagement, clicks, whatever.
Yeah, they do seem to be quite selective about which conflicts they get obsessed by.
Just like that former UKIP councillor who got the sack because of her pro-Brexit opinions.
And you're right, I mean, talking about offending, I mean, you raised some really important points about these non-hate crimes and that sort of stuff. The reality is that you're picking is this two-tier system and calling somebody a fish or whatever, or you smell like a fish. And extraordinary stuff.
Well, I've better just explain to the people listening or watching at home. So these non-crime hate incidents, so the journalist Alison Pearson brought these into the spotlight again because she was threatened with one. The police hand out thousands of these every year. And some of them have been given to people for ridiculous ideas. Somebody got issued with a non-crime hate incident because they didn't shake hands with someone. Some school kids have been done with them. Like you said, a school kid said one of their classmates smelled like fish.
And this is not the place to do that, absolutely. They did. And they did smell like a fish.
And these things are serious.
Calling somebody a Leonard, a Leo, because that's offensive and so on and so forth. An aggressive haircut. There was. Somebody was given an aggressive haircut. haircut.
Yeah,
and they worked on that sort of basis. There has to be, under the law, there has to be a serious risk of escalation.
Yeah.
And what's happened, there's been thousands of these crazy complaints, and the police have been investigating these as opposed to getting on with real crimes. So Alison Pearson, who went through a horrible time on Remembrance Sunday, they basically came along, they didn't tell her what the particular tweet was from about a year ago, and they said this particular stuff, and her life was actually tormented as a result of it.
And there's also, I'm concerned that these non-crime hate incidents are being used to target opposition politicians or critics of the government. So I know of a couple of Conservative politicians. There's Murdo Fraser in Scotland, there's David T.C. Davies in Wales, who've been issued with non-crime hate incidents. And it's almost this sort of Stalinist way of policing speech. Because even though, obviously, any case against Alice has been thrown out of court because it's ridiculous. Even though it gets thrown out of court, the process is the punishment.
Yeah, and absolutely. And she was absolutely traumatised. It brought on an asthma attack, if you read her different tweets and so on and so forth. And they couldn't even tell her which one it was.
Yeah, well, the good news is...
Well, sorry.
Well, the good news is robots might be taking over the world and they'll kill us all, so we won't need to worry about non-crime hate incidents anymore. I mean, should we be worried about nukes? These robots look more dangerous. Footage this week shows how alarmingly sophisticated robots have become.
Yes.
Here's a humanoid robot running in a race.
Oh, very
Here
convincing. Which one?
It's
the one in the red T-shirt. I can tell.
I mean, the way it's running, all right, it's got that sort of Joe Biden shuffle, but it's doing a pretty good job.
It's phenomenal.
And then we've got this next one. It's a remarkably agile all-terrain robot. You see it coming down a hill here. That's
very good, isn't it?
It's got wheels. It's got legs.
Oh, look at that!
It can flip between the wheels or sort of walk like a humanoid. There it is doing a backflip as well. I mean, it's also got that sort of serving tray on the top, so it could bring a pint of beer.
We need these to defend us against Russia, if need be, given that we've become a nation of bickering, bitter crybabies with non-crime hate incidents raised over and over again. So and they're tying it nicely with the previous...
the Ukraine war is really pushing forward drone technology, not just... we know a lot about the drones that go in the sky and, are used to blow up tanks or used for reconnaissance or whatever, but these ground drones...
Oh, no, the war, that's what's going to happen. They're going to be used in battle and that sort of stuff. Elon Musk, he did this We Robot event where they did these the self-driving taxis and the vans, but also showed off the robots.
Right.
And he was sued by the person who created iRobot. No, exactly. And I spoke to Errol.
Are you doing them for real?
Oh, well, exactly. But I spoke to Errol Musk about this, as I say, and he said, well, what are you going to make a robot look like? That's going to have a head and two arms and two legs and that sort of basis. No, the future is absolutely about robotics. And you look at that sort of basis, what they're doing there is just the start. Every home's going to have one. And companionship is one of the biggest things of all. People get very lonely and so on and so forth. Having a robot companion is going to be the future.
But again,
when you say companion, this is like a robot that they can actually,
They communicate with, absolutely.
I was going to say something else.
They can. You can do that as well if you want to.
If you want, well, I do want to.
But again, speaking of the defense area, with all due respect for people who need companions, but given that 14 years of Conservative government has shrunk the British Army to the smallest in Western Europe, we need robots to defend ourselves.
See you on the Saturday Night Showdown next week, and stay tuned for headliners tonight at 11 p.m. and Mark Dolan coming up next. See you next week. Okay, bye. Sorry to...
It was all fact.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office. It stays unsettled through into Sunday. Storm Bert continuing to give outbreaks of heavy rain across the country, strong winds as well. And we can see that on the pressure pattern. Bert sat to the west of the UK, bringing in strong winds, outbreaks of heavy rain right through the rest of the weekend. And we can see the rain across much of the UK through this evening and into the early hours. The bright colours indicating some heavy bursts of rain in there. So there could be some local disruption combined with snowmelt across northern England, parts of Scotland as well, as temperatures continue to rise. Double figures overnight across England and Wales, well above where they should be for the time of year, in a huge contrast to what we saw over recent days. Taking a look at Sunday morning, outbreaks of heavy rain across much of England to start the day. Some localised disruption possible is worth checking before travelling. Something a little brighter for Northern Ireland, parts of Scotland to start the day. Still breezy here and particularly windy across parts of the Highlands and Islands with showery outbreaks of rain here too. Snow continuing to melt where the sun shines as temperatures continue to rise through the morning. Through the day on Sunday, it generally stays cloudy across much of England and Wales. Outbreaks of heavy rain continue. Could be some further disruption. The Met Office warning continues, as well as some strong winds for many parts of the UK, particularly strong across northwest Scotland later on in the day. Temperatures here 9 to 11 Celsius, 15, 16 Celsius further south, so exceptionally mild for the time of year. Into Monday, weather systems start to clear away, but still remains blustery across the northern half of the UK in particular. Here, frequent showers through the day, turning increasingly colder as the day progresses. Some of these showers turning to snow later on and temperatures starting to fall away and generally staying unsettled as we go through the week. Temperatures nearer to average by Wednesday.
It's our festive treat to you. Your chance to win an incredible £50,000 in tax-free cash. Our biggest ever Great British giveaway. What would you spend £50,000 on in the coming year? Spectacular holidays, a brand new car, home improvements, or maybe you'd just like to save it for a special occasion. For your chance to win £50,000 cash, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Why go out on a Friday night when Friday night comes straight to your home?
Talking about?
Join me and my A-team of top pundits. Chemistry tonight is electric. As we tackle the big stories of the day with wit, insight and fearless energy.
Man of the people.
It's all vibe.
Just a filing cabinet on wheels with a tie on.
So, order in Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan, every Friday at 8, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues